Have you ever wondered why masculine energy seems to resist the twin flame connection so much? Why, when the bond becomes undeniable, does he pull away, leaving you confused, questioning whether he really feels the same? The confusion and doubt can be overwhelming, especially when it seems like he's running from his own feelings. Maybe you've experienced something like this. And while you're here, subscribe to the channel to keep following content that helps you better understand this journey. And tell me in the comments, do you believe he pulls away out of fear, or because he still doesn't understand what he feels? You might catch yourself thinking, why doesn't he just accept the connection? Why does there seem to be an internal struggle, even when union feels so close? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into this dilemma and understand why the divine masculine often feels the need to run from such an intense bond. You'll discover what's behind this conflict, the reasons he represses emotions, and how his journey isn't just about resisting love, but facing the deepest parts of his soul. Even though it's a challenging phase, it's essential for both in this journey. By staying until the end, you'll understand how masculine resistance is not a sign of rejection, but part of a transformative awakening. More than just longing, his desire to reconnect comes from something much deeper, a soul awakening that leads him back to his divine feminine energy. Understanding this can help you navigate this phase with more empathy and clarity, realizing that true union doesn't come from pressure, but from allowing. Stay with us, because we'll also talk about how resistance transforms into surrender and how the famous dance of push and pull can evolve into a genuine desire for union. This path is not linear. It's a deep realization that everything he tried to suppress was, in fact, the truest calling of his soul. In this space of surrender, he understands that the journey is not about resisting the connection, but allowing it to transform him from the inside out. And if you've made it this far, it's because this process of the divine masculine also touches something within you. Have you ever felt a change like this? Have you noticed small shifts in the energy around you? Your experience matters. Sharing it can inspire others who are walking this path too. Leave a comment telling us what you feel, or if you prefer, write "Awakening to the Truth" as a commitment to this deep journey. And of course, like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel to keep following reflections like this one. Your support allows us to keep exploring such powerful spiritual topics. The force that defies logic and routine. For a long time, he tried to resist. He convinced himself that moving on was possible, maybe even necessary. He buried himself in work, filled his days with tasks, routines, responsibilities, anything that gave him a sense of control. He wanted to believe the connection was just a phase, something he could overcome with discipline and focus. He thought that if he kept his mind busy, the emptiness would fade. But that's not what happened. The more he tried to organize his life, the more that restlessness grew. It rose in silence, in the still moments, when there was nothing left to distract him. At night, in the darkness of his room, or in the small pauses of the day, the longing would speak louder. At first, he thought it was just nostalgia. But with time, he realized he was facing something much greater. The connection was no longer a distant thought. It became a living presence pulsing within him. And the most disorienting part was realizing that it didn't come from her. It wasn't something she did or demanded. It was him. It was his soul wanting to align with the truth. The more he tried to bury this calling, the stronger it came back. And exhaustion set in, not just physical, but emotional. Pretending none of it mattered took more energy than facing what he felt. It wasn't just about missing her. It was about reconnecting with a part of himself he had left behind. And no routine, no matter how structured, could silence that truth. When everything breaks to reveal the truth, he's no longer running out of fear. Now he pauses, because something inside him is changing. It's not a passing thought or just any emotion. It's a deep transformation. The old him, the one who chose logic over love, safety over authenticity, is crumbling. And this process is not gentle. It's intense. It feels like an inner fire, a clash between the life he built and the life his soul truly longs to live. For a long time, he found comfort in control. He believed he was protecting himself by suppressing his feelings. But now, he realizes there's no turning back. The logic that once soothed him now suffocates. The routines that once grounded him now imprison him. He's beginning to understand that the real risk isn't opening up to love. It's continuing to live out of sync with who he truly is. The fear of suffering is giving way to a new fear. The fear of staying stuck, of never living the fullness of his truth. This awakening isn't just about wanting to be with someone. It's about reclaiming an essential part of himself. It's intense, sometimes even scary, but also freeing. It's like stepping out of a prison he built himself, thinking that logic would shield him from pain. Now he sees that this illusion kept him away from his own heart. And the truth begins to rise, louder than any excuse or justification. Can you feel this in him? Even in silence, have you sensed the inner storm he carries? This awareness can bring you clarity, even help you understand other women who are going through the same kind of energetic storm. Your consciousness can light the way, not only for him, but for others on this journey. This inner breaking isn't just his. It's a collective awakening, where fear begins to lose its grip, and truth becomes the only possible direction. The question is no longer will he change, but how will he choose to live this new reality? Will he have the courage to grow through discomfort? And you, on your own path, can you recognize that sometimes stopping isn't running away, but allowing transformation to take root? Imagine a man who spent years building his sense of security on routines that no longer make sense. He followed a strict routine, kept his emotions locked away, and convinced himself that love was too unpredictable to be trusted. So it was better to keep it at a distance. He focused on his career, stayed busy, and avoided anything that could destabilize his zone of control. Until one day, he meets someone who awakens something deep within him. A connection so intense, it shakes the very foundations of the life he spent so long building. At first, he tries to resist. He rationalizes that it's just a fleeting passion, something that will fade with time. But as the days go by, no job, no distraction, no routine can silence what he feels. The more he tries to ignore it, the stronger it gets. And then he realizes, the real risk isn't in feeling, it's in continuing to live a lie. He understands that clinging to who he's always been is suffocating his soul. So he chooses to face the fear, even without guarantees. Not because it's easy, but because staying away from his truth has become unbearable. This shift isn't just about seeking love. It's about breaking free from the fear that used to guide his choices and, for the first time, letting his heart lead. On the other side of this journey, the feminine energy is also undergoing a deep transformation. There comes a moment when she stops looking outward for answers and begins anchoring into herself. She doesn't abandon love, but she releases the idea that union is a goal that must be achieved at any cost. She learns to live her truth, with or without his presence. It's not giving up. It's choosing herself. Gradually, her energy shifts. It's no longer restless, anxious, unstable. It becomes steady, serene, secure. Not because she expects him to complete her, but because she has found wholeness within. This change is reflected even in silence. She no longer seeks to be chosen, nor does she need to prove her worth. She is whole, even alone. And he feels that, even if she says nothing, even if there's no contact, something has changed. The old dance of pain and longing loses its power. In its place, there is a calm, centered presence that attracts without pleading. He may not understand what has happened, but he senses that something is different. Her energy now is an invitation, not a cry. It's as if he's recognizing a new version of her. A woman who doesn't need him to feel complete, but who has found in herself the peace she once sought outside. This transformation doesn't go unnoticed. He feels it, even if he can't explain it, and that draws him inward. No pressure. No expectations. Just a genuine desire to understand what's calling him back. Meanwhile, she keeps walking her own path. She's not waiting. She's living. And it's exactly that which transforms everything. Because true union isn't chased, it happens when each person finds themselves. This new state of feminine energy creates space for him to awaken as well. Not out of obligation, but because there is something in that peace that resonates with the part of him that longs to be free. He feels the calling, not from the old neediness, but from something deeper, the truth. And that's when the next step comes. When the weight of denying what he feels becomes unbearable. When the pressure that once felt like punishment reveals itself as an invitation to awaken. It's not just a change in perspective. It's a direct call to face his truth. He can no longer keep pretending that ignoring his feelings will bring him peace. The emptiness he tried to hide, the desires he buried, now demand his attention. It's no longer just about wanting to see her again. It's about returning to himself. A deep dive inward. A return to the soul. For so long, he believed it was necessary to hide, to pretend, to control. He thought that was the only way to stay safe. He wore masks, played roles, divided his emotions into compartments, thinking it was possible to keep his heart away from the chaos. All to maintain the image of strength, stability, self-sufficiency. But now that no longer works. He followed the script passed down to him for generations. Men must not show weakness. Men must not open their hearts. But the soul has its own plans. And there comes a time when it grows tired of playing roles that no longer reflect its truth. The show ends. And what remains is raw authenticity, unfiltered. Clarity hits him hard. Living a half-life is no longer an option. Superficial connections, once convenient, now feel hollow. The pursuit of status, recognition, or social approval has lost its shine. He no longer wants to be admired. He wants to be real. He longs to live in alignment, to act with coherence, to look in the mirror and see a man who no longer runs from himself. Masculine energy, for so long conditioned to hide vulnerability, now yearns for something else. Integrity. He realizes that inner freedom comes from breaking patterns of emotional repression and having the courage to live his truth. It's not about appearing strong. It's about finding strength in the act of feeling. That same pressure he once avoided now guides him back to himself, to the core where authenticity reigns. This inner transformation demands courage. He must dismantle the walls he built through years of emotional distancing. He must face the fear of judgment, abandonment, and losing control. Yet even through the discomfort, he knows there's no turning back. His soul will no longer accept a life of pretending. He now understands that the pain of denial is far greater than the risk of being truly seen. He doesn't seek union out of need. He doesn't want to relive the past. What he wants is to show up fully, as a true man who no longer hides his emotions. He wants to love not because he needs her, but because he feels clearly that love demands courage. The courage to be seen fully. In reconnecting with himself, he accepts that this journey isn't linear. There will be doubts, fears. But now, he doesn't run anymore. He allows himself to feel, to reflect, to grow. This inner path doesn't require perfection. It's a process of gradually revealing who he truly is. The awakening of the masculine isn't about proving anything to the world, or to her. It's a promise to himself that he deserves to live in truth. What once suffocated him now sets him free. Not away from love, but deeper into it, starting with self-love. And in reconnecting with his own heart, he understands the journey was always about returning to himself. If you've made it this far, pause. Reflect on your own story. Have you ever felt the weight of denying your feelings? Have you struggled to accept your vulnerability? Your story matters. Share in the comments what you've learned along your path. Or, if you prefer, write, "I choose to be real," as a declaration of your commitment to authenticity. Your voice might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. On the other side of the story, the feminine energy has also undergone a deep transformation. She no longer needs external validation to feel worthy or complete. Today, she stands with herself, rooted in her essence, living with self-acceptance and self-love. This shift, from seeking approval to living her truth, isn't just a step. It's a reclamation of sovereignty. Her presence now radiates quiet strength. It's not an energy that cries out for attention. It simply is steady and serene. This light doesn't try to prove anything. It simply shines. And this soft brilliance has a magnetism that's hard to ignore. What's most powerful is that her transformation didn't come from bitterness or giving up. The feminine hasn't stopped believing in love. She's simply freed herself from attachment to the outcome. She no longer needs to chase or wait. She's stopped seeking validation and has begun to live fully in her truth. This isn't indifference. It's self-mastery. It's the calm certainty that true love isn't begged for. It's lived. And it's exactly this energy that draws the masculine back. Not because she's calling, but because she stands firm in herself. Her light has become a frequency, subtle, constant, powerful. It's not about opening the door. It's about remaining in her own light, whole and complete. This shift doesn't close the door to union. On the contrary, it completely transforms the dynamic between them. She's no longer the one who seeks. She becomes a lighthouse, a presence that calls to his soul, not through words or actions, but simply by existing in her truth. The masculine feels this change, not as pressure, but as presence, not as demand, but as invitation, not as expectation, but as space. He senses her energy even from a distance, calm, balanced, rooted in self-worth. And it awakens something within him, a nearly forgotten memory of what it's like to live in peace with oneself. He realizes that her love isn't a wave crashing loudly against his shore, but a quiet river flowing gently through his soul. By choosing herself, the feminine didn't push him away. She drew him in even more by standing firm in her own power. Her transformation shows him that love isn't earned, isn't chased. Love is embodied. It's lived. And in this state of presence, she becomes the very essence of union, not because she chased after it, but because she became who she always was, fully and authentically. This is the invitation his soul has been waiting for. A love that doesn't bind, but liberates. A connection that doesn't plead, but inspires. It's in this space of sovereignty that feminine energy reclaims its full power and effortlessly calls the masculine home, not to her, but to himself. The return of the masculine isn't about chasing romantic ideals or fantasy. It's not about recreating a perfect love story or chasing the past. It's about a reunion with his own soul, a deep alignment with the truth he's always carried within. In this process, he realizes that union is not about being with her. It's about being true to himself. The awakening transforms his perspective. That connection which once felt confusing or unsettling now emerges as a guiding light, a path leading him back to his essence. It's no longer about projecting desires or clinging to outcomes. It's about anchoring himself in the purity of his most authentic intentions. She is no longer the missing piece, but the mirror of his highest potential. Being beside her isn't just about feeling love. It's about seeing himself reflected in what he's destined to become. This return doesn't happen in a rush or with urgency. It's a conscious journey, step by step, rooted in personal growth and inner honesty. He understands he doesn't need to rescue an old version of himself, nor impress her with promises or grand gestures. What matters now is shedding the layers of fear and illusion that kept him disconnected from his own heart. And in doing so, he becomes a man who is not just present, but aligned with the purpose of his soul. None of this is forced. It's a natural, organic unfolding, a return home. He no longer seeks to prove his worth. He seeks to reveal his whole self. As he lets go of the masks, his real energy begins to emerge. And in this state of alignment, he no longer simply desires love. He becomes love. Union stops being a goal to chase and becomes a natural consequence of who he is. When he lives in his truth, the connection happens, not because he conquered his fears, but because now he vibrates at her frequency. It's no longer about seeking love. It's about being love, in every thought, every choice, every action. As he inhabits this new version of himself, whole, aligned, present, he understands that the true path is not just about returning to her. It's first about returning to himself. And this shift is felt in the air. It no longer comes from urgency, but from a quiet confidence and a clear purpose. He no longer needs to convince anyone of what he feels. His actions speak for themselves. In this space of truth, the masculine finds peace, not in having love, but in being love. And this return to himself marks a new chapter. A time where union is no longer something he seeks, but something he naturally embodies. When he returns to her, it's not as someone seeking love, but as the very expression of it. Aligned, present, ready to share his truth with no fear and no hesitation. Before we go on, take a moment to reflect on this journey of masculine alignment. Have you noticed this shift in yourself, or in someone close to you? How has the idea of living love, instead of chasing it, changed the way you view relationships? Share your experiences or insights in the comments. Or, if you prefer to affirm your own path, write, "I choose alignment, not illusion." Your words may touch and inspire others walking the same path. Have you ever felt the weight of waiting? Waiting for someone to catch up, to see your worth, to recognize the depth of love you offer? The feminine energy has been there, caught between desire and expectation. But something deep has shifted. She stopped waiting. Instead of focusing on when or if the masculine would recognize the connection, she began to live her own truth. She no longer seeks validation, nor does she try to convince him of what she feels. She anchored herself in her own light, firm in her center, with a grace that no longer depends on external recognition. This shift is not indifference, and it's not giving up. It's presence, the awareness that trying to fix, prove, or wait only feeds imbalance. So, she lets go. And in that surrender, her energy transforms. Restlessness gives way to steadiness. Anxiety dissolves into deep silence. Her presence no longer vibrates like a desperate plea. Now it's a calm, stable frequency that subtly invites him. He feels it immediately. It's not the pull of words, but her vibration that reaches him. Not a force dragging him in, but a resonance with his own truth. This new version of her, centered, serene, sovereign, awakens something he can no longer ignore. It's not that he's suddenly ready to merge with the connection, but he understands that union is no longer a distant idea. It's an inner state that can only arise when both are aligned. Her presence makes him look inward, not outward. Her stillness reflects the unresolved emotions he must face. She has become the living example of what it means to be in union. Inner peace, flow, authenticity. Her silence is not absence. It's full presence. It declares she no longer needs to chase love because she has become love. And in her unwavering presence, he finds clarity. He no longer sees her as someone who waits or begs. He sees her as whole, inviting him, not out of need, but from truth. And that changes everything within him. He realizes that union is not something to be won, it's something to be lived. And seeing her steady in her light, he is drawn, not by fantasy, but by a truth too real to ignore. This turning point from waiting to being, from seeking to embodying, opens the portal to a union that doesn't demand, it simply exists. And in this new space, they both find peace. Not in each other, but in the resonance of their own souls. The masculine's transformation is profound. It doesn't come from surrendering to a romantic ideal, but from surrendering to his own truth. He realizes that avoiding the connection was, deep down, avoiding himself. The journey is no longer about chasing a dream, but about embodying his authenticity. As he aligns with who he truly is, union stops being a fantasy and becomes a living reality. This path doesn't aim to relive the past. It moves forward, guided not by the need to be chosen, but by the conscious choice to live aligned with his essence. This awakening is not just a shift in thought, it's a profound transformation toward wholeness. When he moves now, it is with purpose. Not from urgency, but from a call he can no longer ignore. The essence of union is not in the desire to possess love, but in understanding that love begins within. And as he aligns with his truth, the masculine no longer sees union as an option. it becomes a soulful necessity. This journey was never about finding love outside. It was always about realizing that the love he seeks already lives inside him. Have you noticed this shift in the masculine? Share your reflection in the comments. Your insight may help other women trust their own path of alignment. Right? Walking in truth as a declaration of your own journey. And if this message resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to Universo Espiritual for more reflections like this. See you in the next video.